What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after four friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 4th day of February in the year 2025. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here is what we're tracking tonight. The Chief Executive Officer of the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Sherwyn Greaves, tendered his resignation from the government department on Monday evening. One day after a flurry of questions were raised about land deals at Ogle in Guyana and his purchase of properties in New York. In a statement this morning, Greaves confirmed the resignation and said his decision is a deeply personal one, made after consulting with his family. He said the resignation stems from various posts on social media directed at him. In the statement, he said his resignation is purely a personal choice and in no way an admission of guilt. He said everything he has achieved has been through hard work and can be fully justified, adding that the posts on social media have caused significant distress to his family and impacted their well-being. He also said while he takes great pride in the work he's been able to accomplish at the Central Housing and Planning Authority and the many milestones they've reached, stepping away now is the best interest of the family and the organization. He said he did not enter public service to be subjected to vilification, adding that the social media posts are not only upsetting but are also irresponsible, inflicting immense mental strain on individuals and their families. Greaves, who had been heading the CHPA since 2020, was at work for most of Monday. But by the end of Monday evening, the sun was also going down on his career at the government's lead agency for housing development. Over the weekend, questions were raised on social media by leader of the Alliance for Change, Nigel Hughes, about the sale of 30 acres of land at Ogle to a company owned by controversial US-based Guyanese real estate magnate Ed Ahmad, and the purchase and flipping of properties in New York in the name of Greaves from another company linked to Ahmad. Businessman Terence Campbell has also written to the Department of Justice in the U.S. seeking an investigation into the suspicious transactions involving properties in the U.S. and the sale of lands in Guyana. Greaves remained silent on his property purchases in New York, even as the Central Housing and Planning Authority and the Minister of Housing, Colin Crowell, both issued statements on the sale of government lands to real estate developers. In defending the process and responding to concerns about the price tag, the housing minister indicated that a $30 million per acre price tag was standard and had been in place for a number of years, even under the previous government. News source understands that as more information was published about the local land deals and the purchase of high-priced properties in New York from companies associated with some of the land deals in Guyana, senior government officials became concerned about the impact the information could have on the housing department and the government. There are now calls for other major land deals with real estate developers to be examined. While commercial land deals fall under the purview of the housing department, there are reports that final approval would usually have to come from the president's office. More news coming up in just a moment.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look, you know the one, or one touch, even one word. I can start with one step, or one promise, one thrill, one first time, one deep breath, one leap of faith, one day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
so much more than just four walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Hi, this is Van Fields of the Stylistics. We'll be on the lawns of the Transport General Sports Club in Georgetown. The Ultimate Soul Concert on Valentine's night, Friday, February 14th, with our live band for a dinner under the stars. Hope to see you there.
In December 2019, Guyana embarked on a historic journey, producing oil offshore for the very first time with the Liza Destiny FPSO, delivering 120,000 barrels per day. Today, just 5 years later, the nation stands proud as the fastest growing economy in the world. With the addition of 2 more FPSOs, production has increased to approximately 650,000 barrels per day.
Guyana is on the verge of becoming a global destination for sports and culture. Through investments backed by the oil and gas sector, which exceed $3.7 billion Ghana dollars, Guyanese get access to infrastructure and skills training for various sporting activities. The synergy between the economic benefits of the oil operations offshore and support for national initiatives helps position Ghana more favorably on an international stage.
Welcome back. Well, hours before it became public that the CEO of the Central Housing and Planning Authority had resigned amid concerns over commercial land deals, President Irfan Ali was on his social media pages in a broadcast defending the government's allocation process to private developers. According to the president, private developers have to go through a rigorous process and meet certain commitments before they are given the title to lands. The Central Housing and Planning Authority has been facing allegations of corruption over the sale and allocation of prime lands at Ogle and along the Heroes Highway on the east bank of the Marara to developers who are believed to be close to the government.
When you look at the total acreage that was developed and divested into the hands of these Guyanese, as against the acreage that would have been allocated for private development or for development by private developers. That allocation for private developers and commercial purposes is less than 10%. Less than 10% of the lands allocated for housing and house lots.
President Ali further explained that the resources generated from the sale of land to private developers are used to cross-subsidize investment for low and middle-income families. He said through the cross-subsidization, along with the government's investments, the Central Housing and Planning Authority is able to heavily subsidize house lots that are delivered to ordinary Guyanese. President Ali said lands sold to private developers are for developmental purposes, and the process to be considered for those lands include the full payment for the land before it is divested, an agreement to develop drainage and other works in the area, as well as several other standards have to be met.
And if you look at the agreement that we signed with private developers, regardless who the developers are, first of all, there's a process. There was an expression of interest. Private developers would have had the opportunity to respond to that expression of interest, and all of the developers would have signed the same agreement.
The president also sought to compare the former government's housing policy to his government's housing policy and said land sale transactions under his government have been above board. Well, the Guyana Power and Light Company will receive $18 billion this year to aid in power generation. Prime Minister Mark Phillips on Monday told the Parliamentary Committee of Supply that the money is needed to subsidize the cost of electricity. It was explained that at the current tariffs, the state-owned power company would only be able to procure 1.6 billion barrels of fuel, some 800,000 barrels less than required. Hence, the added financial support is required for power generation.
At the current fuel price of approximately US $104 a barrel, GPL can procure 1,657,371 barrels of the fuel at the current customer tariff without any increase in customer rates. However, and this is important that you listen carefully to this part. However, GPL needs 2,462,380 barrels of fuel to meet its generation requirements. GPL needs funding to procure, therefore, an additional 805,009 barrels of fuel at approximately $104 per barrel.
Prime Minister Phillips was at the time responding to a question from opposition Member of Parliament David Patterson. The Prime Minister reminded the committee that notwithstanding the price of fuel, GPL continues to supply electricity with no added cost to customers.
Notwithstanding the shocks that would have seen fuel price going through the roof on many occasions and other issues suffered by GPL, our people today, January 2025, is paying the same rate that they were paying for electricity pre-COVID in Guyana. The point is, you have a government that did not increase electricity rates in 5 years.
However, when asked about the quantity of fuel required for the 2 rented power ships, the Prime Minister committed to provide the information to the committee. The Prime Minister was also grilled on commercial losses, and he told the Committee of Supply that GPL recorded losses of 24.5% last year. MP Patterson, who served as Minister of Public Infrastructure under the APNU-AFC government during 2015 to 2020, reminded the committee that under the coalition, GPL saved $450 million annually due to a reduction in losses.
Hi, this is Van Fields of the Style Listings. We'll be on the lawns of the Transport General Sports Club in Georgetown, the Ultimate Soul Concert on Valentine's Night, Friday, February 14th, with our live band for a dinner under the stars. Hope to see you there.
Your own home is so much more than just 4 walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Ready to up your game? Ready to up your game? Win big with over 60 epic prizes. A brand new PS5, Nintendo Switch, iPhone 16 Pro Max, Apple smartwatch, and the hottest earbuds from Apple and Samsung. Plus, we are giving away thousands in phone credit and a whole year supply of Buster or Turbo Energy drink. Here's how. Buy any Buster or Turbo Energy drink, find the code starting with BB and enter online or on WhatsApp. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Turbo_Caribbean or Buster Guyana for all the details. Don't just play. Up your game with Buster and Turbo Energy.
The government is currently in talks with several countries to procure patrol vessels and aircraft to boost the capacity of the Guyana Defense Forces Air and Marine Corps. During the consideration of budget estimates for the Guyana Defense Force, Minister of Governance Gail Teixeira on Monday said the government is looking at a number of ways to enhance the country's defense capabilities, which includes the enlistment of more ranks.
As you're aware, the Army has been building its stock in fleet in terms of aircraft, acquisition of new aircraft, as well as marine capacity and so on. So along with this comes additional cost. The payments for airworthiness licenses for the air freight. This will be increasing because the acquisition of new aircraft. So not just the Dornier and the Bell, but also additional aircraft have been put on order.
The opposition questioned the minister about the GDF's capacity, especially as it relates to trained pilots to operate the new aircraft. The minister explained that there has always been a collaboration between the GDF and civilian pilots, but she shared the view that more training is needed to boost the Air Corps section of the Defense Force.
The issue with the pilots is that every time you bring in a new aircraft, a new type, a new model, the pilots have to be trained. So it is ongoing all the time. When you bring in a Bell, they have to be trained on a Bell. 212, if they have to go to a Dornier, they have to be trained on that. So it's never a one-stop shop that you train a pilot and you can jump in any plane and fly it. It's a constant, and I believe that the GDF has been sensitive to that, and they've been doing that with training the different pilots to go either overseas or be trained here. So there's an issue of capacity, always is, but I think there's been, GDF has had enough experience in this area for quite a long time to have some capacity and ability to manage this.
Teixeira further stated that Guyana will be securing additional boats to add to offshore patrol vessels which were procured for the Army in 2023 and 2024. The new boats, the minister noted, are specially ordered and built according to the needs of the GDF. The GDF has been allocated $50.4 billion in this year's budget. While the Ministry of Natural Resources has indicated that the process is still ongoing for all oil blocks which were up for auction, and it said it is expected that a minimum of 4 production sharing agreements will be completed and signed this year. The 4 blocks would be S4 to Total Energies, Qatar Energy, and Petronas, S5 to International Group Investments Inc., S7 to Sibili Energy, and S10 to International Group Investments. The ministry said it has always been transparent throughout the process, and relevant information has been shared with the ongoing public engagement. The ministry said the most substantially responsible bidders have been publicly announced, and the process is currently in its final stages, with the awardees expected to be formalized soon. When the regulatory process is completed, a press event will be held to mark the signing of the PSAs, ensuring that the public remains informed throughout the process, the ministry added. Back in 2023, the government awarded 8 blocks to 6 bidders. 4 companies, Total Energies Consortium, International Group Investments Inc., Sibili Energy Limited, and Delcor Incorporated accepted the new PSAs, which was updated by the government, with ExxonMobil and its partners yet to make their position known. The Natural Resources Ministry said the government recognizes the significant public interest in the sector and remains committed to ensuring that the development of the oil and gas industry is conducted in a manner that is both transparent and beneficial to the country as a whole. Last week, when questioned on the issue in the National Assembly, the Natural Resources Minister Vikram Bharat did not divulge the names of the 4 companies to accept the new production sharing agreement, although he had previously revealed their names. An additional $30 billion has been approved for the continuation of the distribution of that $100,000 cash grant. The $30 billion forms part of a total allocation of $40.45 billion that has been approved under the Office of the Prime Minister under the line item Disaster Preparedness, Response and Management. As the Committee of Supply considered the sums on Monday, Prime Minister Mark Phillips explained that the $30 billion will cater for an additional 300,000 eligible Guyanese who are 18 years and older. Late November last year, the National Assembly approved an initial sum of $30.5 billion for the initiative, targeting 305,000 persons. But so far, just over 100,000 persons have received the grant.
And we envisage that some 600,000 Guyanese will receive their payment. The money is there, and the attitude to ensure that people of Guyana receive that money in the shortest possible time is there among the workers. Let us commend our workers again, the foot soldiers who are paying the people.
Opposition Member of Parliament Annette Ferguson told the Committee of Supply that based on reports to the National Assembly, as at the end of December only 90,000 Guyanese had their checks, although an initial sum of $30.5 billion was approved. She has called on the Prime Minister to explain the reason behind the delays.
And based on the report coming out from the Minister of Finance, he said that 90,000 checks were cut, right? So therefore, my calculation is that $9-point-something billion would have been expended just before the 31st of December 2024, leaving us with some $21.5 billion to play with. You, like many of us in this house, are aware that Guyanese, many Guyanese who would have registered, whether it's 400,000, many of them have not received their cash grant. So can you explain the reason why 305,000 Guyanese were unable to receive their cash grant as of 31st of December 2024? And
the Prime Minister said it was an ongoing process, and to date, more than 121,000 Guyanese were in receipt of the cash grant.
We have paid 121,000 Guyanese their cash grant. And let us add to that, we have 300,000 checks that were cut. So, do the math. We cut 300,000 checks and we already paid out 121. And this is a process that is ongoing, both the registration and the payment.
He said government officials, including ministers, are on the ground monitoring the distribution of the grant, with clear distribution and registration schedules being advertised in communities across the country. An opposition member of parliament, Juanita Finance, said while Guyanese are indeed thankful, the chaotic scenes that unfolded at the registration and distribution sites last year have left many of them frustrated. Many Guyanese, including pensioners, turned up to heavily crowded distribution sites, only to be told that their checks were still pending. The Prime Minister assured that during this, the second phase, additional distribution sites will be set up.
There's an increase in the number of distribution points and inside communities. So that itself we have seen as positively impact on the distribution, in the sense that less people have to congregate at any one point to collect their cash grant. That has been working well. We're using schools, we're using community centers, we're involving staff from other ministries. So it's more or less like a whole of government approach to ensure that the cash grant moving forward is distributed in a faster manner, more efficient manner, and less chaos, as you call it.
He also said the government was open to recommendations from the opposition on how to improve the distribution of the grants. He iterated, however, that Guyanese were excited to receive the grant, but MP Finance was quick to remind him that the money is taxpayers' money and not the money of the PPP.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyoil is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyoil's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial, and aerial transportation. Guyoil has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
What was supposed to be a night of celebration turned into disaster after 4 friends who were all drunk left the bar in the city without a designated driver. Designate a driver. Don't drink and drive.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look, you know the one, or one touch, even one word. I can start with one step, or one promise, one thrill, one first time, one deep breath, one leap of faith, one day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
Across the region tonight, El Salvador has offered to house in its jails dangerous criminals from anywhere in the world deported by the U.S. The U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said after lengthy talks with the Central American country's leader. Rubio, who is on his first overseas tour as the U.S. top diplomat, is seeking support from countries in the region for the Trump administration's attempts to deport large numbers of migrants. He met with El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele and senior officials at Bukele's residence outside the capital for almost 3 hours, where they agreed to go beyond El Salvador's acceptance of its own deported citizens. Rubio said El Salvador has agreed to accept any deported criminal from the U.S. to house in its jail. As well as smoothing over the way for the U.S. to send migrants back to their own countries, Rubio is trying to secure third country agreements in which nations accept citizens of other countries that will not accept deportees. Cuba and Venezuela, for instance, have frosty relations with the U.S. and have in the past limited the number of deportees they will accept. Although the Trump administration says Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has agreed to accept back his country's citizens. The president of El Salvador has also offered to house dangerous criminals who are U.S. citizens or legal residents, Rubio said, although it was unclear whether the U.S. would take up that offer. More details of the agreement will be forthcoming, he said. U.S. citizens cannot legally be deported from the United States. In Dominica, 2 bodies have been recovered from the wreckage of a Cessna aircraft that tragically crashed in the mountains of La Plaine, Dominica on the 26th of January. There were 4 people involved in the tragic accident. The plane, which had departed the Douglas Charles Airport en route to Martinique, went down shortly after takeoff and lost communication the afternoon. Search and rescue operations located the wreckage the following day on a mountaintop. National Security Minister Rayburn Blackmore emphasized the significant challenges posed by the crash site's inaccessibility. French rescue teams from nearby Martinique provided a helicopter and specialized personnel trained for high-risk operations. With their help, recovery efforts were able to locate and retrieve 2 of the 4 bodies from the crash site. And finally tonight, international news. In Sweden, Swedish police said at least 10 people, including the gunman, were killed during a shooting Tuesday at an adult education center. A final death toll and the conclusive number of wounded hadn't been determined up to late this afternoon. The damage at the crime scene was so extensive that investigators were unable to be more definitive, said Roberto Ed Forrest, the head of the local police. The shooting happened on the outskirts of the city of Örebro, which is located about 200 kilometers west of Stockholm. The police said that the death toll could rise. The official told reporters that a suspected gunman was among those killed. The police believe the perpetrator acted alone. He was not previously known to the police. The school serves students who are over the age of 20, according to its website. Primary and upper secondary school courses are offered, as well as Swedish classes for immigrants, vocational training, and programs for people with intellectual disabilities. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to have a safe and enjoyable night.